You know that moment when you're doing something totally normal, and then you realize someone's watching? Suddenly your hands forget how hands work. Typing becomes a performance. Pouring water turns into a high-stakes mission. And you're thinking, why is my body acting like it's on stage? If you hate being watched while you do things, you're not fragile. Your brain is responding to a very old social threat: evaluation. Being observed doesn't just feel like someone is looking at you, it can feel like someone is measuring you. And the weird part is, even if the person watching is silent, friendly, or not even paying much attention, your nervous system can still react like you're about to be graded. Here's the first mechanism. Attention turns actions into tests. When you're alone, your brain runs tasks on autopilot. It uses habits and muscle memory. But the second you feel watched, your brain switches from do the thing to monitor yourself doing the thing. Psychologists call this self-focused attention. It's like you add a second camera angle in your head, and now you're both the performer and the critic. That extra layer of monitoring eats up mental bandwidth. So you become slower, clumsier, and more tense. Not because you suddenly got worse, but because you're trying to control something that normally runs smoothly without supervision. This is why people can play a song perfectly alone, then mess it up when someone stands nearby. It's also why you can be great at your job until a manager hovers behind you like a human pop-up notification. The more you try to look natural, the less natural you look. This sounds contradictory, but it makes sense. The body learns skills by repeating them until they become automatic, and then observation drags them back into conscious control. It's like forcing yourself to manually breathe. You can do it, but it's awkward, and you start questioning everything. Now, there's a social layer that explains why this feels so personal. Humans are status sensitive. Our brains track approval and disapproval because, historically, being accepted by the group mattered. So when someone watches you, your brain doesn't just think person present, it thinks reputation at stake. And it doesn't matter if the task is small: washing dishes, parallel parking, sending an email, opening a package. If you're the kind of person whose brain links observation to judgment, any task can become a referendum on competence. And once your brain frames it like that, it's not about the dishes. It's about what the dishes supposedly say about you. This is where perfectionism sneaks in. People who hate being watched often have a hidden rule book like, if I do it wrong, it means something about me. Not I made a mistake, but I am the mistake. That's a shame-based way of interpreting performance. And it makes being watched feel dangerous because it raises the stakes of normal human imperfection. If your baseline expectation is, I should be competent, being observed becomes a trap. Because you can't control the observer's thoughts. And you can't control random little errors. And you definitely can't control the fact that you're now overthinking your own fingers. Another layer is predictability and control. When you're alone, you control the environment. When someone watches you, you lose control over timing, pacing, and privacy. Even supportive attention can feel intrusive because it interrupts your rhythm. Some people are especially sensitive to this because they grew up in environments where being watched meant being corrected. Maybe someone hovered and pointed out every tiny mistake. Maybe praise was conditional. You were good when you performed correctly and difficult when you didn't. Or maybe you were compared a lot. In that kind of setup, observation becomes associated with pressure, not support. So, as an adult, when someone watches you fold a shirt, or cook, or do a simple task, your body remembers the old pattern. Watch equals critique, critique equals stress. And stress makes you mess up, which confirms the fear. That feedback loop is brutal. This is where it gets weird. Sometimes people who hate being watched aren't actually worried about being judged as bad. They're worried about being perceived at all. Like, the spotlight itself feels wrong. That can happen if you're naturally private, or if you're high in self-consciousness, or if you're just more sensitive to stimulation. Being watched is a form of social stimulation. It adds noise to your internal system. Your brain starts tracking eye contact, micro-expressions, silence, distance, what the other person might be thinking, what you should do with your face, whether your posture looks weird. None of that helps you complete the task. It's just extra processing. And when your brain is busy running social radar, the task suffers. That doesn't mean you're socially broken. It means your attention gets pulled outward fast. Compare that with people who love being watched. Those people often interpret attention as energy. Their brain tags it as interest or status or connection. For them, being observed can boost performance because it raises arousal in a helpful way. This is close to what social psychology calls social facilitation. For easy or well-learned tasks, being watched can make you sharper. But for complex, unfamiliar, or emotionally loaded tasks, being watched can make you worse. So if you hate being watched, it may be because your brain classifies the situation as high stakes and not fully mastered, even if the task is simple on paper. Because the task isn't the hard part, the evaluation is. Another surprisingly common reason is identity protection. Some people don't want others to see their process. They only want others to see the result. Because the process includes uncertainty, trial and error, and little mistakes. And if you grew up feeling like mistakes were embarrassing, you start hiding the messy middle of doing things. You don't want someone to watch you search for the right tool, reread instructions, hesitate, or restart. Not because that's abnormal, but because you learn to associate being seen trying with being seen failing. So you'd rather do it alone, get it right, and then reveal the finished version. That's not laziness, it's impression management. It's your brain trying to control the story other people tell about you. There's also a simple boundary issue. Being watched can feel like someone is taking up space in your head without permission. Even if they're not trying to, you're forced to include them in your awareness. And if you're already someone who runs hot mentally, who's already juggling thoughts, responsibilities, and self-critique, adding an observer can push you into overload. You might look calm on the outside, but inside it's like, great, now I have to do the task and also perform person who is not weird about being watched. And that performance is exhausting. So what's the takeaway? Hating being watched usually isn't about the watcher. It's about what your brain thinks watching means. For some people, it means judgment. For others, it means interruption. For others, it means exposure. And for a lot of people, it's a mix. A sensitivity to evaluation, a habit of self-monitoring, and a perfectionistic fear of being seen in the messy parts of competence. The next time you freeze because someone's standing there, remember what's happening. Your brain switched from autopilot to self-surveillance. You didn't forget how to do the thing. You just got promoted to performer and critic at the same time. And if you'd rather do normal tasks in peace, you're not being difficult. You're protecting your attention, your control, and your nervous system from turning a simple moment into a public exam.